Whoa. Not a good look for Lyft. I mean, imagine
Bruh.
ordering a ride and the driver straight up rejects you because of your body size. That's testing.
Yeah, and according to everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Convoluted Podcast. It's your host, Jesus, aka Tyrant Dominus, and I'm here with Liz.
Hey.
And if it's your first time listening or watching, thank you for joining us for another week episode. It's been an awkward one, definitely. You know, we at the time of the recording, it is the 1st of February, like Liz mentioned earlier. How has everyone's January been? Liz, how has your January been?
I called it a Monday. It felt like a giant fucking Monday. That's what it felt like. It felt so long. I don't know about you, but it did for me. I was like, it's only the 15th? Oh shit, it's the 30th. What the hell? There's so much else to do. It was
Definitely.
been one of those months. I'm like, there's been a lot of bad news, good news, not so great news. Government. Blech.
Bruh.
True.
Yeah.
True. It's been a lot happening inside. It sounds like a lot has been happening inside your space, outside your space. I'm similar. It's been one of those weird weeks. I had a vacation, which was, like I mentioned last week's episode, which wasn't bad, but definitely not what I was hoping for. But you know, you make the most of it. Definitely an awkward month, to say the least, and it always feels that way, doesn't it? January always feels that way because people try to make the New Year's to be something more or less, but it's just the beginning. It's just the start of a new calendar year. It's nothing more or less than that. You know, it's just another month into the northern hemisphere, into what feels like it's going to be an interesting winter for us in the Pacific Northwest. Definitely, we have been having it a little bit weird, but you know, nothing to majorly complain compared to some of the other people throughout the states. So I'm not gonna complain too much about that. So I've been.
You didn't see the forecast is gonna happen this week?
Oh, trust me, everyone's been talking about the big chill coming. I'm like, you know what? It doesn't matter to me. Like, I don't really.
It won't matter to me because I'm trying to get out of town next weekend.
Okay, see, that's you. That's a you problem.
Wow, so much nice.
But yeah, anything else you wanna talk chit chat about before we jump into the episode?
Not really.
All right, because we got a packed episode today covering everything from the right to repair laws to an OnlyFans controversy and even a plane crash. There's been a lot happening this week. But let's get started off with something that impacts us all: the right to repair movement. I think we talked a little bit about this a while ago. So yeah, the right to repair. It's a movement that's been picking up steam for years, and now 6 states have passed laws that put power back in the hands of consumers. According to Investigative TV, these laws require manufacturers to provide consumers and independent repair shops with access to necessary parts, manuals, and tools.
Finally, I don't know about you, but I've had some mini gadgets crap out on me right after warranty ends, and then they tell me to repay almost full the price to fix it. It's ridiculous. Oh god, I had so many of those in the last 10 years alone in this place.
Exactly. And the situation has gotten worse. Fox 8 Live reports that the average lifespan of major household appliance has decreased by nearly 10 years compared to the 2 decades ago. That's wild. We're talking about fridges, washing machine, dishwashers, and all things that are supposed to last years and years. Yeah, we're kind of getting to our dryer washers around that time too. We're getting there, and one's been acting a little finicky, so
Planned obsolescence. It's a real thing, and don't I feel that? Companies are making it so So stuff breaks faster, and you have to buy a new one. They even lock down repair options, so you can't go to a third party. It's all about money, not quality.
And that's the big fight right now. Companies like Apple and John Deere are lobbying hard against these laws, claiming that letting people repair their own devices could lead to safety and risk and intellectual property theft. Apple, for example, has argued that letting non certified technicians open up devices could compromise security and safety.
Yeah, but let's be real. The security excuse is kind of weak. A Fox 8 Live article also pointed that some companies are using software locks that only allow authorized repairs for something as simple as replacing a battery.
Bruh.
That, oh God, and that's the frustrating part. Companies design products to fail and then make it as difficult as possible for you to repair them. Have you ever tried replacing an iPhone battery yourself? And Apple intentionally uses special screws that require
Propriety. Yeah,
proprietary,
yeah, we got it.
yeah, something like that, tools to open the phones.
Oh, don't get me started. I had a laptop once when a single broken key required me to send the entire thing in for repairs because I couldn't sell the replacement part separately. They just designed me to be inconvenient as possible for the consumer.
Exactly. And that's more than it's just inconvenience. It's also a financial burden. Repair costs can often come close to or even exceed the price of buying the new product. And that's how companies get you. They make sure you think, well, I might as well buy a new one.
It's such a scam. It's like they intentionally keep you on a never-ending cycle of buying new gadgets. And what happens to the old ones? They just pile up in landfills. E-waste is a serious environmental issue.
And that's another major concern. The right to repair movement isn't just about saving money, it's about sustainability. If we could repair our devices more easily, we wouldn't be throwing away them away as quickly. It's estimated the electronic waste is one of the fastest growing type of waste in the world.
So what's stopping these laws from becoming the norm everywhere? Why are there only a handful of states on board?
That's the influence of big tech and manufacturing lobbyists. They are arguing to letting consumers repair their own devices would lead to security risks, liability issues, and even job losses in authorized repair centers. And in reality, it's just about maintaining a monopoly on repairs.
That's the same argument they used in the past with the car repairs, but now independent auto shops thrive alongside dealerships and people who have more choices. Why can't we do the same with tech?
Exactly. And that's why the right to repair movement is gaining traction and people are pushing back and lawmakers are starting to listen. If more states continue to pass laws, manufacturers might eventually have to comply with on a larger scale.
Sure hope so. Just people deserve to have control over things they buy and shouldn't need permission to fix their own stuff.
Couldn't have said it better myself. The movement is about consumers' right, environmental responsibility, and a fight against corporate greed. We'll keep an eye on this one, how it develops in years, but definitely has been an issue that's been on our minds for the last couple years, and we've talked about it, but it looks like some states are now doing something about it. And
Good on them.
whether
Good on them.
So yeah, this is frustrating to say the least, right? It's something we need. Like, do we have the time to fix some of the time? Because sometimes you pay for the convenience, right? The convenience for car repair. Do we like? Not everyone can go and repair their car like they did back in the day, right? Oil change or just fix a device. No, these day and age, sometimes you're paying for the uh, to avoid inconvenience, right?
Yeah, because you're paying for not only the tech hours, the person who's fixing it, to the part, right? It's just like when you go in to service your car, right? You put there, and also disposal too. So depending on what the situation is, like when you go for that oil change, so you're paying for that disposal of the oil, the tech doing the oil change, and the refilling of the new oil, right? So the same thing, logic in the phone comes to the whole thing about that, right? You're not
Yeah.
only paying for the new part, you're paying for the disposal, you're paying for the tech house. So yes, it's another money boosting economy in a different aspect, but it's not in
So
money of the corporate.
exactly. And I'm not gonna deny that, just having a chance to fix something myself at this point, my family has just been trying to learn different trades to just be able to fix shit themselves. Having like one person in every trade just to like, oh, we have a plumber, we have an electrician, we have what other trades are there? Whatever other trades, just so we can fix it ourselves instead of paying the exorbitant cost when it comes to just cost. It's just way too bad these days. So having the ability, I'd rather have the choice to repair it myself than being told I have to just pay the price to fix it or get a new one at this point, right?
Hmm.
It's frustrating, and we've talked about this before. It's just an annoyance to, um, but at least it's happening. And like, what are your final thoughts on just this for you and your own personal circle?
I think it might be beneficial because I mean my mom and I always make things work, with a I mean, I've been without a phone because my phone needed a repair or a new one was coming. And because, at that time when my phone didn't crapped out on me, like we always make things work. There was always a way to say, hey, if you need to get a hold of me today, just contact somebody else. Here's their number. I mean, like those little things. Like we always make it work. There's always some sort of thing of making things. I think it'd be great because, yeah, it would save me a little bit of money. I don't have $800 to spend every year to go get a new phone or whatever the heck it is, $1,000 now. But I just don't have that money sitting around lying away to get a new phone every year. No, well, it's not the 50s when we have to buy the brand new car every year, right? So, unless you got the money.
Feels like it. Almost feels like it at this point. All right. Moving on to something completely different. This next story is making waves. A Detroit rapper, Dank Demos, I think that's how you pronounce her name, is suing Lyft after a driver allegedly refused to pick her up, claiming that she would not fit in the car.
Whoa. Not a good look for Lyft. I mean, imagine
Bruh.
ordering a ride and the driver straight up rejects you because your body size. That's interesting.
Yeah, and according to NBC News, the driver declined services, stating that his car had limited space and couldn't safely accommodate her. But the question is, was this a valid concern or pure discrimination?
Let's think about it. Rideshare rides are independent contractors, so they do have some control over what they accept. At the same time, they are representing Lyft, which has policies against discrimination.
Exactly.
Yeah, I have to
Lyft
know that.
respond. Exactly. Lyft responded by emphasizing their commitment to anti-discrimination policies, while also stating that drivers have the right to refuse rides under certain circumstances, and that's where things get tricky.
Yeah, that sounds like a corporate way of saying, yeah, but also nah. You can't have it both ways. Either you enforce anti-discrimination policies or you let drivers refuse rides as they see fit. But you can't claim to do both equally.
And this lawsuit is bringing up bigger conversations about discrimination in the ride sharing. Should there be clear guidelines for situations like this? Should passengers be able to request larger vehicles if needed? Should drivers be trained to handle different passengers' needs with more sensitivity?
And let's not ignore the bigger issue of discrimination in general. It's everywhere. Airlines, clothing stores, now ride shares. People don't have to feel like second class citizens just because of their size.
And that
Yeah.
brings another
Yeah.
point. What about accessibility? Rideshare companies offer features for people with disabilities, like wheelchair accessibility vehicles. Should there be similar features for those who may need more space?
You realize they do upcharge you when you go up to the next size in vehicle. Just saying. Just saying. That would make sense if a rideshare app could just choose a luxury car or electric vehicle. Why not able to option for an extra space or comfortable seating? It's also it's a simple solution that could prevent cases like this even from happening.
with the cost.
Yes, with the cost, of course, of course.
And speaking of larger vehicles, I read that some drivers don't want to use bigger vehicles for ride sharing because they use more gas. They pay rates and rates isn't high enough to justify. Lyft and Uber sets rates, and drivers get the short end of the stick.
Absolutely. So when you get a multiple problems stacking up, weight discrimination, driver autonomy, company policies that are unclear, and economical factors that kind of affects cars drivers even choose.
Right, and that's why this lawsuit is important. If Thank Demos wins, it could set a precedent that changes how rideshare companies handle cases like this. Maybe we see clearer policies, or maybe we even better compensation for drivers who drive larger vehicles.
And you know what's wild? This isn't the first time Lyft or Uber have been accused of discrimination. There have been multiple cases where disabled passengers were denied service, and the companies had to update their policies afterward.
That's a great point. There's a pattern here. It seems like these rideshare giants only make changes when they get sued. So maybe this is the case. It is the pushes they need to be more inclusive.
Hopefully. But for now, we'll have to wait and see how this lawsuit plays out.
And another angle to the story is the public perception. You know, the court of public opinion on rideshare services. If more cases like this come to light, it could impact how people view companies like Lyft and Uber. Some might feel less safe using these platforms if they think they could get discriminated against for any reason.
Exactly. And with social media amplifying these cases, it's harder for companies just to sweep them under the rug. It's people start boycotting services or calling for policy changes. Lyft and Uber will know but to respond in a meaningful way.
Absolutely. This could be the turning point for rideshare companies in terms of how they handle customers, driver policies. But yeah, definitely we'll be keeping an eye on this one. I know, Liz, you stopped doing that a couple years ago, or yeah, right?
A few years ago, actually, I quit doing it. I did it for as a side income for a job. I never actually turned anybody away. I don't think. I don't think I might have done it because I was trying to get somebody else on my ride, but um, yeah, it is one of those things. I've done the ride shares. I did it as part of an extra supplemental to my income. They gave a bonus if you like ride so many rides in like a month. So I was like aiming to get that as an extra little bonus so I could have a little bit of cushion for Christmas money actually at that point. I think almost at that time of the year. So then my schedule went back up into hours and I was like, oh, I can't really justify doing more time working away from my family. So
Yeah, not
I'm a
bad. So
family
you were
person. That's what it is.
so
So
you had experience as a driver. So yeah, have you used yourself these services? I know I've done it a couple times when we traveled. When I we went
absolutely when I
to
travel.
yeah, because to say the least, it does serve as a viable like way of transportation when you're traveling. It eliminates you trying to quote rent a car when you don't need to travel so much. Because we've done that too, where when we travel, instead of we have to go rent a vehicle, and it's a pretty penny, you know, not anymore. You can't even say pretty, it's a pretty
It
dollar.
does. But if you only need it, like, from, I don't know, say from the airport to the Airbnb, you're obviously going to just take it to there because if you're in walking distance to everything, you don't rent a car. So,
Like yeah, why rent a car
it just makes
when you can just ride share
walk
there?
around. Yeah, exactly. I've done that. I've done the ride share to my sister's house when I would visit in SoCal, and um, it, yeah, they took me there before they took the other person to where they were going, and yeah, it was a good experience. I had never had a problem with it. I really never used it until my sister said, "Hey, I can't pick you up from the airport, but I can get you a lift." Okay, that's great, because I had no idea. I've never used it myself because it was not something I'm used to or accustomed to. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
It's a good, it's always been a very convenient thing to have. But definitely hearing
Especially if
this
you want to
story,
drink and drive. You don't want to drink and drive, so you want to drink, but you want to enjoy yourself without having to worry the hassle.
yeah,
I've done that where I've carried people who were at parties, and I used to take them and we used to go, like that kind of thing. So
exactly.
safety, safety.
You want your friends to be safe. Because not you can't always have them crash over, or you might not be in a location where it's your home. It's like you guys are out drinking, like, oh, you know what? Well, we have to make our way home. But definitely, did you by any chance you heard about this? You didn't see the news video about this, right? It was really
No, I didn't see a news video. It just happened. I don't know if it was your article that blipped up or it popped up on one of the news article places I was reading. I mean, she was a big girl, but I mean, those people travel too.
actually it was disheartening just hearing her side of the story from her perspective, because definitely this is America. I won't deny that Americans are on the heavier side, so take that as it is. That's the joke the world uses. So nothing more to say there. But definitely, it's when it comes to these situations. I know there's been a lot of fighting, but definitely, we'll see how these next couple of years will be with how things are working out, because of how everything's like going out in policy world. Like like I said, we just talked about just product policies. We'll see how these types of policies will go into effect, mostly with the health industry being one of the biggest topics in current times at the moment being discussed. But any other final thoughts? Because I hope she's doing well, because that's something.
I hope
I know.
she gets something out of it. I hope even if it's a lifetime of rides. So
Because
that'd
yeah,
be great.
definitely that definitely hits on a self level, that level of discrimination, So, that's something you'll never like forget about. But
Mm-hmm.
so buckle up for this one because it's wild. An OnlyFans just banned Bonnie Blue, one of their most controversial creators, and it's got the internet buzzing.
Oh man, I saw this. She was trying to set some sort of record, right? Like a ridiculous over the top stunt.
Yeah. He allegedly planned or already attempted a stunt involving 1,057 men in 12 hours. That's what got her banned. According to Vice, OnlyFans stated that she violated their terms of service, but many believe it's less about the stunt itself, but more about the bad PR it brought them.
Right, because let's be real, OnlyFans had one sort of extreme content before. Has all sorts of extreme content before. That isn't their first WoW creator, so why is only cracked down on Bonnie Blue?
That's the big question. Some people think it's hypocrisy. Like OnlyFans built its brand on adult content, some might say, but now they're trying to clean up their image whilst they still make money off the same industry. But they did try to ban pornography at one point, remember? So, and then they said, "Oh, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine."
Right? That's how a lot of
Bruh.
people made the extra income, right?
Exactly.
They tried to ban explicit content completely back in 2021, and that backfired. This kind of feels like another kind of one of those moments where they're trying to distance themselves from controversy while still cashing in on the adult industry.
Exactly. And Bonnie Blue isn't taking it quietly. She's been calling them out, saying this is selective enforcement. Like, why her and not some other creators doing extreme stuff?
That's a fair question. I mean, is this just an image issue? Do we Did she go too viral in the wrong way? because we've seen other creators do extreme things and not get banned.
That's where things get interesting. Some think that it has to do with outside pressures. LiveMint reports that OnlyFans faced backlash from financial institutions in the past. And this might be them trying to appease payment processors and investors.
That makes sense. If a stunt like this gets too much mainstream attention, it could freak out advertisers and financial backers. I don't know about that, but okay.
So what's the lesson here? If the content creator, especially in adult spaces, you're always at the mercy of the platform. They can decide in any moment that you're doing doesn't fit their brand anymore.
And that's scary. These platforms thrives on creators, but the second they become bad PR, they get tossed aside.
That's why we're seeing more creators move to decentralized platforms, even more starting their own businesses. That the risk of being deplatformed is very real. Definitely these last couple,
What
like
happens?
this decade, yeah.
Yeah. So what happens next? Does Bonnie Blue fight this? Move to another platform?
She's already talking about taking legal action.
Bruh.
But at the end of the day, it's a private company. They have the right to remove anyone they want.
True, but doesn't mean it's fair. And sets a precedent for other creators. If one gets banned for bad PR, what's stopping them from banning others?
Exactly. And let's not forget that this isn't just about Bonnie Blue. The case highlights bigger issues, platform control. We've seen similar situations in YouTube demonetization, Twitch bans, and even Twitter censorship. Platforms have had so much power over these users, and yet their rules often feel vague and inconsistently enforced.
Right? And and we're talking about fairness, let's talk about OnlyFans still profits from creators even when they get remove them. If someone like Bonnie Blue had subscribers paying for the content and she gets banned, what happens to the money?
Ooh, great point. That's there has been reports of platforms been holding earnings from creators who get banned, essentially pocketing their money. If that's the case here, it would be an even bigger scandal.
So we got a selective enforcement, platform control, financial exploitation. This story is bigger than just the one creator getting banned. It's about the holds of power in the digital age.
And until there's more transparency in these platforms policies, creators are going to continue running into issues. Whether Bonnie Blue wins her case or not, this could serve as a warning to everyone relying on platforms to make a living.
Agreed. So if you're a content creator out there, keep your options open. Build your own audience outside of these platforms before you never know when they might decide you don't fit their brand anymore.
Exactly. When it comes to online creation, the second a lot of people who have been in the space have always said to diversify where you're earning, right? Like we're hobbyists, so we don't have to worry about things like this. Um, but people who have like tens to millions of people following and subscribe to them, this is their job, right? They are trying to stay consistent, but the second they get banned or anything, there goes your income. Like, how would you feel if that's what would happen to you one day, Liz? If all your income would be like delayed or completely gone because of something that you were known as bad PR, and there goes your income for the time period. Like,
That PR being a woman.
well, not an OnlyFans.
Sorry, I feel like we're still in the handmaiden age, so let's go on with that factor.
Bruh.
I oh well, what's going on with the government right now and everything. Yes, I can totally see. I would be pissed, honestly, to tell you the truth about everything that's going on. I would be really, yeah, I'd be willing to fight. Take back what's mine because everything you earn and everything you do should be, you know, your money, but to pulled and yanked out of all the hard-earned income, that would piss me off. That would like literally set a fire to the ground on the on anywhere to get attention.
Definitely, that's kind of what happens a lot when things like that happen. I've been online in these spaces long enough to understand when things like this happen. Sometimes it's like yelling into the void, like, oh, this happened to me. Mostly if you're a smaller creator without a strong following, like you're small enough that you have a following, but not and make enough money where like you're content, but not large enough to actually have a voice in the big internet ocean, right? So when something happens like this and you try to say something, you're kind of just lost into the void until someone picks up your story, like we've done multiple times with certain creators and certain topics, right? So like definitely, like with this story, we had a big name with a big quote stunt, right? So there's more eyes on this one, to say the least, and definitely has a bit of a more spicy tone to it. So you get headlines on this boy. You get headlines on this boy. But
I would think
but
they
yeah,
would want that money influx, but hey, what do I know?
because at the end of
They're
the
always
day,
trying to get that money.
because the quote is always, bad PR is still good PR at the end of the day. But that depends on the PR these days. People are getting canceled left to right when you're a creator. But her situation in particular, we talked about. Did we talk about the
We
first?
did talk about the first one she did.
Was it the same person? Was it Bonnie?
Oh, I don't know. I thought it was the same person. I assume so.
Was it? I thought Bonnie was taking a.
I don't remember. I didn't get a chance to see the article that you meant for homework for me.
But anyways,
months.
but definitely, there was, if it is Bonnie, we do apologize. But if it wasn't, there was a person who did sleep with like a large amount of men's in a single day. And we talked about that story, and I ended up watching the entirety of the documentary to kind of see what. Definitely, it did leave her with a strong impression at the end, even though she still wanted to do it again larger, kind of with the same sentiment, but it did kind of mentally did take a toll on her throughout the documentary. You could see as they were discussing with her every time they took a break and stuff like that. But it's one of those things where some people say is like, this is what you get for the job the quote the job that they're in. And is that really a good like statement to even have? What do you think?
I feel like it's her income, it's her livelihood. So I mean, honestly, she's trying to fight what she wants to do, and that's her choice. I mean, everybody has a choice, right? So if that's what she wants to do, and these men are willing to join the name to do this, so to accomplish this task force, what she wants to do, I feel like she should have every right to, and maybe she shouldn't do it on that platform because they're trying to say that it's bad PR. Maybe she should just go on a different platform. She should make her own platform and create their own shenanigans. Let that be a one-time thing. I mean, I don't know. She could do anything she wants to. She puts her head for it.
That's not an impossibility. Definitely having a single platform for all your people to gather together is very easy. If you're like on Twitch and for gaming, or if you're on YouTube for certain videos, there's definitely having a platform helps a lot. Because you're being recommended. But so starting out your own independent thing is not impossible. Many creators have had some success, but some have failed epically on that level. So it's really hard, mostly when it comes to this type of line of work, because it's looked down upon in the States a lot. It's been trying to been normalized a lot more these days, but even then, it's still like poo-pooed on, Yeah. Because I remember I was watching a video of this one young lady who was talking about her experience of how she did it for over a year, and while she was going to school and trying to become, what was she trying to become?
Nurse.
No,
I feel like that's
no, she
a
was trying
layer.
to finish her physics doctorate. So here's a good question for you, because she said that she quit her her physics doctorate, like she was doing just in the final like months of trying to finish her doctorate, but there was a lot of work that she needed to get to it. But the money she was earning to kind of pay off everything and all her stuff was extremely like underwhelming to what she did. So she was doing OnlyFans on the side, right? To earn, well, income. And she decided just to put her schooling on pause just to go 100% on OnlyFans. And she felt, at the end of that decision, she ended up earning close to almost 2 million in that year.
Wow.
So my question to you would be, back in your early 20s, would you have done that if that was available to you, instead of being someone earning minimum wage at a fast food um or any, like a, just what is it, so department store or anything, you could be earning hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, that's my question to you. Would you have done that
Are
if
we
that was
talking
available?
pre-kid or after kid?
Early 20s, it's up to you. You
I
can
mean, I
answer
was
both
in
ways.
my early. Okay, so if it was before my kid, I probably would because I was young, I was uncommitted. But then again, I had the same mentality, like I want to support my kid, so I probably would do it on a time when they weren't around. I mean, it's if you want that extra income, like I said, I've always done it. Like Lyft, that was my side job, and so it's because as a single mom, you would try and do what you can to support your family in any way possible. I would absolutely have done that had I had the opportunity and that it was available to me readily and all that jazz. I think it would because I would have want that income for my livelihood, even if I just stashed it away and finally decided to do something more respectable now. So I don't know. It's something I contemplate sometimes. Do I do it? Do I not do it? I mean, it would be fun.
That's the thing. It's like, yeah, the financial prospects is like very, like, very telling, right? It's like there is money to be earned in these types of sites. Like, there's not only just OnlyFans, there's other things like Fansly and stuff like that. But it's the thing is like, one, you're putting yourself out there, in that type of light, but the financial gain is so much, sometimes way better. And mostly if you only do it for like the first couple of years, and if you rake in the money, get that bag, and then you can probably earn way more sometimes, in that first like year or like 1, 2, 3 years of doing it. If you actually put the work into it, and you'll have a good like nest egg for a long time, because what she did, this particular creator, like, she paid all her student loans. She paid off her parents' home, and she bought herself a nice condominium. And for the most part, she set all her financials aside, and then after that is said and done, she's now finishing up her doctorate in that field. But instead of like what she could have got it done earlier, 2 years earlier, she could have got it done and got all her stuff done. She would not have had the financials at this point where she is now. She would still be. She even says that she would be still in debt, trying to do so many things. But because she took the 2 year gap of doing that, she like just earned the money. And it's sometimes things like that when you hear stories like this, seeing things about like Bonnie Blue trying to do exorbitant things, like, people want the attention, people want to get the bag, and it can sometimes lead to some quote bad PR, and that's where things are going to get interesting. But that's a topic for another discussion for a later date. So, do you have any other final words as far as this concern?
Honestly, if she wants to do this, I wholeheartedly would support that person too. If you want to do what you want to do and you want to have fun with it, go for it. It's not hurting anybody, not harming anybody, and it's breaking in the money. Do it.
Yep, do it until
Life's too
you
short.
feel. Exactly, do it until you have what you feel is a good amount of money. So yeah, let's jump into the next topic. It's a goofy one. It's a bit of a goofy one. Here's a topic that's stirring up international debate, apparently. So Google recently renamed the Gulf of Mexico on its maps, labeling it into the Gulf of America. Unsurprisingly, Mexico's not happy about it.
I have heard about that. It's a bold move. Google just started renaming the oceans now.
Pretty much. According to CNN, the change apparently appeared briefly on Google Maps before being removed, but not before Mexican officials got involved. The Mexican president even sent a formal complaint to Google demanding an explanation. Woo!
It is so wild. It was an international change, or was there some glitch or a rogue employee having a laugh?
That's what's unclear. Google released a statement saying it was an error, that they were investigating the matter, but some people are saying this might have been a politically motivated.
That makes sense considering what's going on. We've seen similar controversies before. Remember, Mount McKinley was named Denali. They had a political push behind it, and that had a political push behind it. Ooh, excuse me, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. And the timing is suspicious. Some political analysts believe that it has linked to the U.S. national rhetoric. Reuters reported that some American political groups have been pushing for the name change, claiming that it aligns with historical records that predate Mexico's independence.
Yeah, it sounds like a stretch, though. The Gulf of Mexico has been called for the century, and people start renaming geographical locations based on a political influence. Where does it end? It's like Wikipedia.
That's a big question. It's not the first time something like this has happened. There's history of tech companies getting involved, whether intentionally or not. It's geopolitical dispute.
Right, like Google Maps accused of shifting borders and disputed territories to favor certain countries. These things have a real world consequences.
Definitely. It raises another question. How much influence should private companies have over historical and geographical names? Do they stick to international recognition standards, or do they have the right to change the name based on public demand?
I think they should stay neutral. Once a tech company starts taking sides in these kind of debates, it gets messy fast.
And let's not forget that Google isn't the only one. Other digital platforms like Wikipedia, even social medias, can shape political perception just by how they present information.
What's happening now? Has Google officially changed it back?
As of now, yes, the label of Gulf of Mexico has been restored to Google Maps, but the backlash hasn't gone away. Mexican officials have still demanded an explanation and guarantees that this won't happen again.
I wouldn't be surprised if this issue drags on. National pride is a big deal, and something like this could be used as political fuel.
Absolutely. It brings up another interesting discussion. Should governments have more oversight in how digital platforms label geographical locations?
That's a tricky one. More oversight could prevent these issues. But at the same time, do you really want government selling telco? Oh my god, I cannot talk today. Want government telling tech companies what to display?
Ooh, that's kind of what's happening at the moment. That is what's happening at the moment. And that's the dilemma. If the government starts demanding changes, the others will follow. Before you know it, digital maps could become battlegrounds for geopolitical disputes.
Right? And what about the implications for education? Imagine students learning incorrect or politically influenced geography because a tech company decided to modify a name under pressure.
That's a valid concern. Digital platforms shape what millions of people see every day. A single change can have a long term effect on how history is perceived and taught.
And then there's the question of corporate accountability. If Google claims that this was a mistake, what measures are in place to ensure it's not happen again?
Great point. There are internal checks to prevent political influence changes, or are companies leaving themselves open to mistakes that just happen to align certain agendas?
And look at that shit.
For sure, but one thing's certain: people need to be aware how much power these platforms hold. If they can rename a whole golf, what else can they change?
And that's the big question. This is definitely one of the goofier stories of the week. Like I said, it happened just for a moment, but that moment sparked a light on this fire. You know, it's one of the more goofier things happening in the political scape. You know, we don't talk politics, but this is one of the more goofy ones, and I think we're fine to talk about it because it's just so stupid. Like, do we really need to? Like, it doesn't. Like, it's just water. Like,
It is a water, and I honestly, and I'm not trying to be political here, but I was like, America would make sense considering it is North America, Central America, and South America. So like, it's all the Americans. Like, it's all the Americas. So I was like, it could work, and not trying to side with the name change, but it would be an interesting thing. We've always known as the Gulf of Mexico. Like, oh yeah, the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of Mexico. It's another hurricane. It's this and that, and in the tropics. And I it doesn't bother me either way, honestly. But I was just like, it would make sense politically if you're like looking at the continents and saying, here's North America, here's Central America, and here's South America. Like, they're all the Americas. So I don't
I
know
see your point.
if it was pluralized, I guess it would be awesome instead of just America, Americas, because it's all the Americans, all the Americas.
I see your point, but yeah, definitely, it makes sense. Not geologically, is that right? That's the word. Yeah. Just to keep everything straight, but definitely people like to have borders and things, and then also just kind of what they were mentioning earlier, just kind of the idea of history, right? Definitely.
Yeah.
The cities, states, countries have come and gone, and places have changed because of that. And over the years, that's been happening. That's been happening for centuries, as long as humans have been around. A lot of nations have fallen and have expanded and shrunk, and countries have been taken over or have been like seceded. There's so much that happens. But I don't know if this is the first time this has happened to just a land piece of water that I can think of. Because as far as I care about, I think there's other issues than just changing the name of a piece of water. I want to be able to eat. That's kind of what I care about.
Yeah. I know, it's food or the lands that we're talking about, but I mean, like, yeah, it's just water. I mean, we get a lot of sustenance from water, and it's just water to us in our world. And I don't think it should matter what name it is, but it's funny. I see how Mexico will be like, hey, take that back. This has been since the dawn of whatever document that started this whole shenanigans. I mean, you can't rewrite history, right off the bat, and be like, I don't like this piece of history, so I'm going to write this back, and we're going to change it to this.
Actually, you can rewrite history. You can rewrite history, Liz.
Yeah, I know. History's being rewritten all the time and taken out to value whatever people want to, relay in the story. Like, we're only going to focus on this part. We're going to skip this little part that I don't think anybody needs to participate. But it's such a huge relevance. Like, the book I'm reading right now, it is very, very. It almost feels very similar. Like, oh yeah, we only gonna leave out what we don't like out of this book, the storyline, and this history piece that's relevant to today's time. But that's okay. Oh, I feel like it is a necessary thing to learn. Um, I mean, like, geography again. Or even water land masses, we all want to know the names of it because it's important, as a lot of Americans don't know a lot of what's beyond the borders. And
Or even within the
so,
borders. Like you, like we remember seeing that video of people just trying to name states.
oh yes, that was horrific. I mean, yeah, well, America's just, school education system, he's floundering every day.
Exactly. So why make it even harder, right? Well, that's a
It's
topic
just
for another
we're
day.
just gonna call this North America. There's no countries involved in here.
The whole world's just America. Just call that's not Earth anymore. It's America. Just call that's it. Just keep it simple.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like
And
it's gonna be. That's what it's gonna call.
hey, there's been so many books and games written where it's just Planet America, and we can call the moon America Junior.
And what about Pluto? Pluto has been in and out of written history as a planet, not a planet, back and forth.
I think it's not a planet at the moment, but it still sits out there.
That it
It's
was.
I don't think it's a planet at the moment. I think it's just
Oh
a
God.
dwarf planet. I think it's a dwarf planet at the moment. So yeah, there's only 8 planets in the solar system right now, to my knowledge.
We grew up with 9. We grew up with 9.
Exactly. Like knowledge changes with time, with different things, but definitely with different things can be altered, and with enough people knowing the altered information, it becomes the new real, right? And at the end of the day, when it comes to some histories, it's always the victors that tell you what history is. So, but yeah, we'll see how this one turns out. This one was much more of a goofy one, but hopefully it doesn't turn into anything serious, because it shouldn't do. But these days it's just getting wild out there. But let's for our final topic. It's a little bit more of a serious one. Definitely this one is both shocking and tragic. So, an American airline commercial jet and an Army helicopter recently collided, leading to multiple casualties and a wave of concerns about aviation safety. Oh, talk about aviation. We've been talking so much about aviation last past year. This is not new
This is
to us.
terrifying. No, this is terrifying. A commercial plane and a military helicopter in the same airspace. How does something like this even happen?
That's the questions investigators are trying to answer. According to CNN, the collision occurred near Washington, D.C.'s Reagan National Airport. Initial reports suggest that there may have been a miscommunication between air traffic control and the military flight coordinators.
That's a huge failure in coordination. You think with today's technology, something like this wouldn't happen?
Exactly. NBC News reports that the helicopter was conducting routine military training exercises, and it's unclear whether the proper flight path notifications were issued. If a breakdown in communication caused this, it could be a wake up call for how civilian and military aviation interact.
And let's not forget the human factor. What was this? This pilot error or a traffic air control failure? A combination of both? There's so many moving parts in an incident like this.
And that's what's alarming. Civilian airspace is supposed to be tightly regulated, and yet we've seen near misses before. Similar events happened back in 2018 when a private jet nearly collided with a military aircraft. The Washington Post reported on it at the time, and it led to some minor reform, but clearly not enough.
If the problem is systemic, what changes needs to be made? Do we need stricter regulations, or is the issue just human error?
That's a debate. Some experts are already calling for increased automation in air traffic systems to reduce reliance on human decision making in high stress scenario. As always, you got to add AI to everything these days, but that opens to a
Mm-hmm.
whole other can of worms. How much should we rely on automation in something as complex as aviation?
Yeah, because on one hand, automation can reduce errors, but on the other hand, if something goes wrong, do pilots and controllers still have enough hands-on experience to take over?
And let's not forget how this affects public trust. People already get nervous about flying, and incidents like this just reinforce those fears. If we don't see strong accountability from both the airlines and the military, confidence in the air travel could take a hit.
And there's also the issue of military exercises near commercial flight paths. Should these drills be moved further away from civilian airspace to prevent accidents like this?
That's a great point. Military aircraft follow different protocols than commercial flights, but when their airspace overlaps, it creates room for disaster. If there's one major takeaway from this, it's that the current coordination between the FAA, and the Department of Defense might not be as effective as we think.
And I bet the families of the victims are demanding answers. Have there been any statements from the airline or the military yet?
American Airlines issued a brief statement expressing condolences to the victims' families and promising full cooperation with investigators. The Army also stated that they are reviewing all the procedures to determine if mistakes were made on their end. The FAA has pledged a full investigation, but as we've seen in the past, these take time.
Yeah, and by the time they release the final report, the public outrage may have died down. That's how things often go.
And that's part of the problem. If real change needs to be made, they have to happen before the tragedy occurs. But we shouldn't have to wait for more lives to be lost before action is taken.
Hopefully, this sparks real discussions within the aviation history industry, because at the end of the day, lives are at stake, and safety has to be the priority.
And one more thing to consider is, what about accountability? If this was preventable, someone needs to take responsibility. Whether it's the FAA, the military, or American Airlines, we can't let this sweep under the rug.
Agreed. And more flights in the air now than ever before. We need to make sure safety is evolving with the industry. More planes, more pilots, more risks. This has to be a wake up call.
We'll be following this one closely somewhat. Definitely has become a little bit more politically motivated these last couple days since the incident. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on it, but we won't dive too much into political aspects of it. But hopefully, the investigation leads to some real reform and not just another thoughts and prayers. I always feel right, but we do have like
Mm-hmm.
that's the least we can provide is our thoughts and prayers to the family because that's all we can offer. But yeah, like I said, there's already some stuff happening. Because when incidents like this, things people start talking, and like I said, we're not gonna jump into the politics, but they're already starting to make changes, right? I don't know if you watched any of that. Um,
No, it's just been a tragedy. I've been watching it over Facebook about the people that died, the group of American Airlines pilots and flight attendants
does
um,
this does
have
this
lost
hit,
their lives. I've seen it all over.
does this hit different knowing that you have family in this industry?
It does. It's a scary thought to think about this every day, My sibling, flies with airplanes and as a flight attendant, and it is scary. But you do take that risk every day. I mean, you get on that plane and hopefully nothing happens, and you pray that they get to their next destination, and weather doesn't disrupt it. I mean, there's like so many factors that go on in my head when it comes to the flight, and you gotta hope and pray that everything will go right every day, every time they take to the flight. I mean, but it's an industry that does have its challenges. I mean, it does have this, you know, you risk life and death literally, and you hope that you can keep your, staying safe, but at the same time, things like this you can't predict or prevent. It seems like nowadays because they're always running into military aircraft. So, I think the military needs to step up and be like, "Hey, we need a better coordination of systems because this is not happening again." So,
Well, like I said, we don't know what actually happened, so we don't know if it was military. Like, but there's a lot of these are there's a
I know,
lot
but
of
I feel like if you're going to be in the airspace at the same commercial airplanes, like there should be some sort of communication. This has got to happen more often. There's got to be more communication between these two companies. If I don't care, but you risk losing a soldier and you risk losing a whole flight of 80 people. You know, look at all those families. Look at all those that team that died. I mean, it is so heartbreaking and so sad to see this all flounder. I mean, it just yeah. But I also think part of it might be a tactic too. Like, you focus on one tragedy, but there's another thing happening over here. You see this a lot in our, our politics system where here's a tragedy, but hey, we're gonna slide this bill under and get this passed. Like,
America for you, or actually, that's kind of the world for you. Politics, just politics in general. Like I said, that's kind of what's been happening. Some of the policy changes that are changing as far as the like aviation space has been interesting to say the least, but that's a whole different discussion and more politically driven, and that's not what we're here to aim for. Because some of the things what they are talking about, like I get what they're saying, but I'm like I just what you mentioned a little earlier, like you want answers, right?
mm-hmm.
Mostly as someone who does a lot of air travel yourself, because I think I travel at max 2 times every 5 years, so that's kind of my space for air
And
travel.
I at least fly at least twice a year, if not more. So, I it does concern me. Because every time you get on that plane, it's you never know.
Exactly,
Situation.
because there's multiple faults of failure at that point. It can be human error. It can be plane error. It can be communication error. There's just so many faults of errors that can happen in these things. You just never know. And like we mentioned earlier, it just takes time, and that's what's disappointing in situations like this. And it seems like at least some things are being pushed ahead, but some things are being changed, to say the least, to take some quote action. But we'll see. Like I said, we'll keep an eye on it. If anything comes up, we'll see if it's interesting and weird. Because definitely it is a tragedy. Like we try to avoid it, but we talk about it because it's something like how did this happen? That's just such a weird thing to happen. So it is one of those stories like we will bring up because it's an odd one, to say the least. We've talked about a lot of airplane crashes or malfunctions last year, but this one's definitely one of the strangest ones to start out the year with. So,
Mm-hmm.
all right, let's wrap up another episode of the Convoluted Podcast. We've covered a lot today, so let's do a quick recap.
First, we talked about the growing momentum behind right to repair laws. More states are passing legislation that forces companies to make it easier for consumers to fix their own devices, but big corporations are still fighting to maintain control over repairs.
Then we dove into the lawsuit filed by Detroit rapper Dank DeMose against Lyft after she allegedly denied a ride due to her weight. This caused raised major questions about discrimination, driver rights, and how rideshare companies handle controversial situations.
Next, we explored the OnlyFans controversy surrounding Bonnie Blue. She was banned from the platform after attempting an extreme adult content stunt, sparking discussions about selective enforcement and the power of platforms have over creators.
And look at that shit.
And of course, we touched on Google's brief renaming of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. While Google called it a mistake, Many suspect it could have been influenced by political agendas, raising concerns about tech companies controlling geographical narratives.
Finally, we covered the tragic collision between an American Airlines plane and an American helicopter near Washington, D.C. The accident highlights the ongoing need for better coordination between civilian and military aviation, as well as whether automation should play a larger role in air traffic control.
These were some pretty heavy topics, but we love to hear your thoughts. Which story stood out to you the most? Do you think right to repair will keep gaining traction? Should OnlyFans be more transparent about banning creators? How do you feel about safety in shared airspace?
Hit up us on social media, drop a comment, or send us a message. We love hearing from you guys and your input, making these conversations even better.
And don't forget, depending on where you're watching or listening to us, don't forget to follow, subscribe, or just tell a friend. Sharing the show is always great. Word of mouth is one of the best ways to let people know about us. And if you are on any of the podcast platforms, don't forget, why don't you just leave a review if you enjoyed the episode? It really helps bring really helps us keep bringing up these discussions every week.
And thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll catch you up on the next episode.
All right, everyone. See ya.